Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back to NTV Today. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and let's get right into it. While the weather has been very rainy, it has led to floods, and that has also costed farmers, especially in many parts of the country, who are saying that all their crops have actually been washed away. Some are saying this will lead to a lot of food prices going up due to the same, and some don't even know how they're going to reclaim that land going forward, even when the rains subside. Well, to give us an idea or a perspective of how the agricultural industry will be moving forward when the rains subside, or from here henceforth, with me is Timothy Munywoki. He is a chief agronomist from Amiran Kenya. Thank you for joining us. Maybe you can start off by telling us what an agronomist does.
Okay, thank you. I'm an agronomist from Amiran. Agronomist is a scientist who incorporates different aspects, starting from soil management, land management, crop rotation, fertilizer use, and all that. All these combined geared towards improving food productivity.
Okay, so what has been the impact of floods on food production? As we know, it has hit many parts of the country, some more than others.
Actually, I would say I really feel for the farmers because it's a big problem. I've seen farmers wailing because all their farms have been washed away. When you try to look at Kenya, most of the farms are along rivers. So this is rain we never anticipated in the first place. So what happened is that all the crop was washed away. Apart from that, we are also experiencing diseases. The disease load is so high. So farmers are forced to use a lot of pesticides, something which they never budgeted for. So when you try to look at some of these issues, problems which have been brought by floods, at the end of the day, farmer is the one who is losing. Why am I saying this? Because the farmers bought the seeds, so the seed companies got the money. The farmers bought the chemicals, the chemical companies getting his money. So now it's the farmer who is having biggest problem.
Okay, yeah. But you've got to go back to that question. We always have rainy seasons at times that we are hit by floods year in, year out. Why is it the farmers are never prepared for this?
What I will say, in the recent past, because of climate change and global warming, like in this year, we got rains earlier than expected. So it becomes a bit difficult for you to tell, this is how I'm supposed to prepare. Another thing also, we are looking at issues of floods. There is no early warning signs, maybe from the government or something, to alert the farmers that there will be floods. So farmers, most of them are smallholder farmers. They just do it. They have little knowledge. Most of them don't have any insurance. So it's really a big menace.
Speaking of insurance, do farmers know that there's even that opportunity to actually insure your land?
Large-scale farmers already know when they are insuring their land, their food crop. But when it comes to small scale, they are not doing it. Even the insurance companies are not willing to support that idea. Actually, it's a wake-up call for them to invest in smallholder farmers, to make sure that they also get insured. Because at the end of the day, these smallholders, they're the ones who are contributing much to food security in this country.
And speaking of which, as an agronomist, do you sensitize them to the importance of taking up insurance?
Like in Amiran, it is we give solutions. It is not only what we sell, but also giving solutions. Some of these solutions involves advising farmers also on how to get insured. But most of them welcome the idea. Others, they are reluctant about it. But now, moving forward, looking at what has happened, many farmers are counting losses. I think they are going to incorporate all the advices that we are giving them.
Okay, and now that they are aware, some of them know that they can actually be insured, what would be the step-by-step process to get that insurance?
What we can do, or the best approach, would be agro-dealers. We have many agro-dealers in this country, starting with Amiran, approaching or coming together with the insurance companies to draft a policy which can cover smallholders. With that is something which needs to be done. It is yet to be done. With that now, the farmers can be incorporated, they can employ to start insuring their crops and all that. Because again, you need services of agronomists to advise also. This is the sum assured in terms of yields. This is what the farmer is anticipated. If it is not there, the farmer can do what? The farmer can be compensated in case of floods. Yeah.
Speaking of anticipating, how can farmers build their resilience in as far as protecting their land from such adverse weather conditions?
Well, what the farmers can do, they have to not do the way they have been doing, the cultural practices. There is a normal way of doing things, especially if we have the floods and all that. For instance, farmers need to be discouraged from, farming along the stream of rivers and all that. Kenya, most of the country is dry, so they can incorporate new technologies like drip irrigation, where it is dry, they can start doing cultivation. And most, when you to look at the weather patterns of our country, most of months or many months are dry. So at that particular time, they can be growing. When it is wet, they can probably wait to see how the rains will be in case of floods and all that. And through that, they can be in a position to evade some of the losses.
Okay. Yep. As an agronomist, are you on the ground sensitizing them and letting them know to probably watch the weather pattern so that they can plan ahead?
Well, I can say, for instance, in Amiran, we have more than 40 agronomists. All these scattered all over the country. Our day-to-day activity is to visit farmers, to do what we call extension, giving them knowledge, advising them. So I can say it is something that we do as our daily routine. Yeah.
All right. Now, we mentioned about some places that were adversely affected. For example, the northeastern part of the country. For those farmers that were trying to at least move from pastoralism to actually agriculture,
yeah,
how are they going to reclaim their land back?
There's a big issue. And I can say as agro-dealers, actually it's little we can do. But if we can incorporate all the stakeholders, like government and what have you, county governments, national governments. I think the government has set a big budget for agriculture. Incorporate all the key players. We can forge a way in which we can assist these farmers.
And who speaks on behalf of the small-scale farmers? Because you say the large-scale farmers, they have taken care of themselves. Who speaks for the small-scale farmer?
Now it is a role with the county government need to take it, because I can say that in the past nobody is there. So it is the role of county government now to fill that gap.
You mentioned there is also another threat, that of pests that have come with the season. One of those pests that has been mentioned over and over again is the fall armyworm. What is this and how does it affect yield?
Fall armyworm, I can say, is a new pest in Kenya. It has been there in America for centuries. First reported in 2016 in West Africa. Later on, it came to Kenya. 2017, it was reported in Trans Nzoia, Kitale, and all that. Fall armyworm is a different pest from what we've been having in the country. It has its own key attributes and characteristics. For instance, fall armyworm lays eggs of 150 to 200 in clusters, and they have the protective sheath, which protects against predators and all that. So one fall armyworm can lay 2,000 eggs in a lifetime. When it comes to movement, it goes very fast. Per night, it can go up to 100 kilometers. What it requires is to take the advantage of the wind currents. So with that, it goes more than 100 kilometers. So it is a special pest, but in Amiran, we had to understand the pest first before we give the solution. We did different trials all over the country. We tried to look at what is the best way, not only chemicals, but also incorporating cultural practices. And we came up with a solution or formula. And we've seen it working. Currently, we have in Trans Nzoia, it's a season for maize. Also in Uasin Gishu, we have seen it working. So it's all about sensitizing the farmers. For instance, the fall armyworm are mutating very fast. They need to incorporate different chemicals of different chemical classes. With that now, they can be able to cope up with the pest. Apart from that, pupating. It pupates in the soil. So some cultural practices like cultivation and all that tries to expose the pupa to the predator. So with that now, the farmer can be able to actually manage it to minimal levels.
Is it, does the weather help it to mutate?
It is not weather, but chemicals.
So it is chemical.
Chemical.
So with the water, with the excess water, is it helping or is it killing it?
The theory is that people are saying that it is killing, but to minimum extent. Yeah, you cannot say, we have heavy rains, I'm not going to spray my crop. You're going to lose it. So to minimum level, the heavy rains are killing the susceptible instars, like the first instar of fall armyworm. Yeah.
All right, so maybe we could ask, what are the consequences if I do not use the pesticides that should be used to curtail its spread? What are the consequences?
The consequences will be you are going to lose your crop 80%.
What does it do to the crop?
What it does, it feeds on the foliage. And the foliage is the factory for the crop. So it means there will be no photosynthesis. If there is no photosynthesis, the crop will not going to grow. Apart from that, it tends to attack the hulls of the maize crop. And these are the young leaves. If they are deformed and they can hit completely to 100%, then it means that crop will be dead. So in the long run, it will spread. It will spread very fast within that particular location to other neighboring farms. So the issue is, if you don't spray, does it? And it is not only spraying. You need to get the best molecule, the best chemical for this role. So like what has been used in Mexico, what South Africa are using, they are insect growth regulators. Those are the ones which are most effective. Things like Proof, for instance.
Okay, does it like warm areas, cold areas? Does it have any preferences, or it is found anywhere it will actually be able to mutate?
It has preferences. It prefers hot areas. But again, as we speak, it has spread all over the country. So it's a matter of now prevalence levels to be high in hot areas, but also in cold areas we also are experiencing the same problem.
You talked about using the right pesticides to make sure that you actually deal with it and other pests, or rather other pests that would be attacking yield. How can farmers be able to access these pesticides, or even the information as to how well to use them?
Well, the farmers, like I can say, the modern farmer is a digital farmer. We have everything on the internet, like in Amiran website. We have published different articles and all that. Apart from that, we are going to radio stations. We are sensitizing farmers. This is the best products that you're supposed to use. Apart from that, farmers have agrovets all over the country. The nearest agrovet, we train those dealers. So we disseminate that information to the agro dealer, and then the agro dealer advises the farmer who comes with the problem.
Okay, and maybe a question that would come obvious to a farmer is, during the rainy season, farmers have problems with controlling weeds, especially grass weeds. Yeah. So do you have anything, maybe as an agronomist, who, advise how to deal with this?
I can say that the tough weeds to control are grass weeds. And we have a solution. We have something called Agile. What it does, it controls weeds to 100%. And farmers will say, like the smallholder farmers will say, now I can't use it because it will have effect on my crop, it will have effect on the soil. But if I talk about such a product which I've used and I've seen its effect, like Agile, you find there will be no problem with the crop. It will not cause what we call phytotoxicity effect. It will not burn the crop. Again, it will not have effect on the soil. So with when you try to compare manual weeding and using pesticide like Agile, it is far much better, because you're going to save the cost by, let's say, by half the cost.
At what point do you use that pesticide?
Agile. It is a post-emergence. Saying post-emergence, I mean you wait, the crop germinates, and also the grass weeds germinates. So with that, you apply it in a span of 1 week. The grass is not there, it has wilted, because it is a physiological process again, which has to, the Agile starts immediately after spraying. Another thing, it is not washed out, although during this time of rains, we advise the farmers to use sticker, like Superfil. Sticker is a product you apply together with the pesticide, and then after spraying, even if we have heavy downpour, your pesticide will not be washed. So it's something which also farmers need to emulate, especially when doing their sprays.
Is it economically viable? Is it something that is affordable?
It is affordable, because if a liter will go for like 1,500 Kenyan shillings, and 1 liter you can use, farmers use this language of pumps, you can go up to 20 pumps. So it is very much economical.
Okay, so we've come across many farmers now tapping into growing onions. I mean, there are different types of crops and yields. For example, onions, tomatoes, carrots, some that don't do well with the floods or wet seasons. So what are you advising farmers to do to ensure that they do not lose these crops in the land?
Well, one thing I will say is that farmers have been doing onions for centuries here in Kenya, but they have been using just the normal seeds. For you to get it right, you have to start with the best seed. And with that, for you to get a best seed, you have to do a lot of research and also map each seed in different ecological zones in Kenya. For instance, a seed like Neptune, we've developed it for dry areas. So it will not require a lot of rains. Apart from that, it has other advantages, like being resistant to pink rot, which is a major problem to onion farmers. So a farmer needs to identify the best seed. It will all start from the best seed. You'll find the normal PVs will go up to 6 months, but for the hybrid, like Neptune, will go up to 4 months. When you try to look at the yields, you're going to harvest up to 16 tons or 15. Now, depending on agronomic aspect, because farmers can just buy it, do it, and then they ask, you said 16 tons. I didn't get that. I got 8 tons. So it's something, following all the aspects, what we advise, you can get up to 16 tons. And when you try to look at the cost of seeds, the chemicals, the general crop husbandry cost and all that, you find you're going to get profits by double. We have successful stories from our farmers who have been using seed like Neptune. On cold areas, we also have something we have developed called Rasset F1. Rasset F1 is a hybrid, and this hybrid will go up to 3.5 months. So it shortens. It has a small growing period, like 3.5 months, and then you harvest, you have your crop. So with the Rasset, you get medium bulbs. Neptune will go up to, it will depend with how you feed it in terms of fertilizer. Neptune will go up to 200 grams, others go to 250 and all that. For Rasset is medium bulb. Again, farmers need to know their market. If you need market for large bulbs, you go for the best variety like Neptune. Medium bulbs, you go for something like Rasset F1. Yep.
Now, you've talked incisively about onions. Do you look at other products that probably are dependent on the weather? For example, as a consumer, when I go to the market, I'll find tomatoes right now are very expensive. I'll find carrots are also very expensive. When you talk to the farmer, they say these are the things that you can't find because it is wet. So are you saying using these seed varieties would help have these products all year round?
Exactly. Let me add on something with those two varieties. There's something we call storage, the shelf life of onions. It goes, what we have, Rasset and Neptune will go up to 4 months. You can store it for 4 months under ideal condition. So with that, you're going to supply throughout the season. Again, you have brought the aspect of food prices going up, especially during rainy season like now. What happened is that we are not using the technology that is required. The farmers, if you go to the market, tomato is very expensive. Why? Because those who are doing outdoor, we had the floods and everything, so the crop got finished. But if you do it in greenhouse, of which we are also commercializing, you'll be in a position to harvest throughout, irrespective of prevailing weather and all that.
Okay, so you mentioned about fertilizer.
Yeah.
Is this something that the farmer can still afford considering the weather patterns?
Well, farmers, and I'm sorry to say this, farmers mostly, they like cheap fertilizers. But again, don't go for the cost. Go for what the fertilizer can do. For instance, if you apply fertilizer right now, like urea, the normal urea, and we have these heavy rains, because of leaching, volatilization and all that, your crop will spend like 20% of that fertilizer. But we have slow release fertilizer, which are coated with polymers. With these slow release fertilizers, you apply it, it will not be subject to heavy rains, leaching and all that. It will be releasing nutrients slowly, depending on the crop requirement. But again, when it comes to cheap, farmers need to think it in different perspective. What can it do? What will the crop consume as per what you applied?
So thinking in the long run.
In the long run.
Okay, let's go back to the weather. How do farmers reclaim their land after all the floods we've seen across the country? What will be the best place to start?
Well, the most important thing where they should start when it comes to reclaiming the land and all that, there are different aspects. You have to look at the land. You have to assess it. Some of them have been washed away. So it will incorporate what? Data land preparation. It will incorporate maybe application of a manure and all that. So they will have to start from somewhere. It will depend now, depending on the different location. But another thing, when it comes to land reclamation, is a complicated topic altogether. So it's something we can incorporate the county governments and all that. Yeah.
Okay, and is the county government working hand in hand with you? Are they cooperative?
They are cooperative, but we need to see them coming out fully to come to work with us. Because
food security is actually one part and parcel of the Big Four agenda by the Jubilee government. How do you think would be the best way for farmers to be part and parcel of this, keeping in mind the weather patterns?
Well, first of all, I'll talk of different aspects. If I talk, we need to empower the farmer, first of all. And what do I mean? When you try to look at these farms, they are located places which are impassable. We have seen in news farmers crying. They are saying that they have a lot of tomatoes. But again, in Nairobi, they are not tomatoes because those roads are impassable. So we bring in some of this infrastructure to the small-scale farmer. Apart from that, if the government can give the farmers grants, the inputs can be subsidized, because at the beginning of the interview I said farmers are the one who are having this big burden of buying these inputs. If it can be subsidized, again we try to see how we can remove the brokers, because they're exploiting the farmers. Probably farmer to get their produce, we can have one centralized place. If I'm farming in Makueni, I bring my produce maybe in Nairobi, one central place, all the farmers brings to that central place, and then whoever wants to buy comes to that central place. We try to come up with the idea of trying to get rid of the brokers, because they're exploiting farmers. And at the end of the day, the farmer is so much patient. You buy the seed, you wait until you harvest that particular crop. So something which can be done.
There's something maybe you can educate me as a layman, overusing land. And some farmers just want to keep using so that they can have the yields and they can be able to break even. Is this advisable, especially now that we're dealing with different weather patterns and especially with the floods?
Well, what I would say, farmers have been overusing their land, and it has brought other issues, detrimental effects, like soil acidity. So you find the soil is acidic, this will imply that even if the farmer uses fertilizer, there's no effect on the crop, because the fertilizer is not available to the crop. So what we can tell the farmers when it comes to using their land, it will depend with the different crops. They have to practice things like crop rotation. Today you did, let's say, cereal this season. Next season you do legumes. With this, you're going to renew your soil. Apart from that, farmers, we advise them to do soil test. When they do soil tests, they'll be in a position to gauge what is in the soil. It's like you're doing experiment to check what is in the soil. If we have one nutrient which is low, you correct it. If we have something which is excess, you also have correction measures.
Are these services you offer as an agronomist?
Yeah, these are services we offer. We do soil testing. When you come, Gladys, to the office, you want to be a farmer, the first thing is you do soil test. From there, now we are aware what kind of soil we're going to deal with. Not just doing it the way we've been doing over the past. So with that, with the soil results, we interpret it. I tell you, this is what you're supposed to use. This is what you're supposed to use. You don't need DAP. You need something else better. Things like those. Yeah.
And I remember going through my agriculture classes. There was the end product, which was about preservation. You've talked about some of the yields like onions can go for even 4 months, but some perishables like tomatoes, are there ways to actually preserve them longer considering they're perishables? And at times, as you said, the weather patterns affect even the roads where this produce is being taken to. So what can the farmer do on their end to make sure that they actually keep the produce longer?
For tomatoes, it's quite complicated, but we advise things like the way you're supposed to harvest the crop. You have to harvest the fruit together with the bud so that it will lengthen the shelf life to like 2 weeks, but not more than that. But because mostly if we talk about the small scale holders, we need to have the refrigeration facilities to the farmer. We identify places like Mogotio, farmers are doing farming there. Like Toktok, farmers are doing farming there. Can we have a facility where these farmers can store their produce as they wait maybe the prices to be good or something like that, and probably can be charged small amounts of cash. So with bringing something like a refrigeration facility requires a lot of money. It's a great investment. And that's why I was saying it is not the role of farmers to be left alone. We also need all the key players to come and see how they can assist them. Yeah.
Okay, and are you actually sensitizing these farmers to put together some of these resources? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who get to incur the losses.
It's true. We are encouraging farmers to form cooperatives. Cooperatives going up to 100 members and all that. We have started it in Uasin Gishu. We have started it in Trans Nzoia, where we have a cooperative like Camp Health. So these are people, we are trying to talk to them to come together as farmers. And when they come together as farmers, they can be able to raise a lot of cash to set up some of these facilities. We've seen it starting to work. Like in Mafuta, we have a big storage for farmers. Somewhere in Eldoret, we also have big silos for cooperatives. So it's something which can be done. They pull themselves together, raise cash, and even when it comes to buying inputs, it will be even cheaper for them because they can be given discounts and all that. So yeah, they have to come together.
Okay, speaking to agronomist, that is Timothy Munywoki, on how to reclaim land, especially now that we're going through this rainy season that has led to floods across the country. But before we get back to that conversation, our reporter Kevin Mutai is in Kericho County, and he is telling us that the land CS, that is Farida Karane, is there to speak to the county government or county officials, and he now joins us live with the latest. Kevin?
Okay, thank you, Gladys, and we are glad to join the broadcast from Kericho. Currently, we are at the Kericho Training Institute, that is TR.
We seem to be having a technical hitch there with Kevin Mutai's report coming from Kericho, where the land CS Farida Karane is in the county to speak and meet with county officials. We'll cross over to him when we can get that feed. But back to our conversation, Timothy Munywoki is with us. He is a chief agronomist from Amiran, Kenya. And the farmers just listening to you, they are just wondering, how do I protect myself as a farmer going forward now that we've learned the expensive lessons, so to speak, because land has been washed away, especially the northeastern region and other parts of this country. Other parts of the country are dealing with landslides. What are some of the measures they can put in place to protect themselves?
Well, one thing I will say this, it will start with trying to change the way they have been doing things. And how are they going to change it? Like I've said, most of them are doing farming along the rivers. They have to change about that.
How about the ones that are affected by landslides?
The ones that are affected by landslide, that's a natural cause. It's quite complicated for them with the mudslide and everything. The second president of this republic used to say you build gabions and all that. Something like wall to protect. But if you try to look at these, the cost and everything, for the normal farmer it would be expensive. But again, if a farmer, nowadays is not like past. We have many farms for leasing. Farmers can go somewhere which is safer to lease a piece of land, other than doing your farming somewhere in Budalangi and you know floods will come. I'm not despising the farmers who are doing there, but I'm just giving as an example. So they can lease land elsewhere. Here in Nairobi, there are people who are leasing land. you go to Loitoktok, you go to Narok. So there is big land to lease. And with that, don't do it alone. You need to consult the experts. You do it alone, you say, no, I'm also an agronomist, you are bound to fail because things have changed. You go to farmers, they tell you, you know what, I have 50 years of experience doing farming, so you're a young man, what can you tell me? But things have changed. You're not using the same soil that you used to do in 1960s. Things have changed, so you need the input of the expert to see what can be done. And we are talking about intensive farming, not extensive. Small piece of land and you are in a position to get a lot of yields. Can do hydroponics, can do vertical gardens and all that.
Okay, now let me consult the expert in this. I remember from our agriculture lessons, we were told when the rains come, they take away the top part of the soil. Now with the heavy floods, definitely much more than the topsoil has been washed away. So how long will it take to regenerate that topsoil?
Well, it will take time, years. The best way is to import soil. Soil importation. Your topsoil was swept away. You can buy soil and then as a remedy of claiming your topsoil. So you bring it together with manure and then you can proceed. But if you wait for it to regenerate again, then you're bound to fail. You're going to wait for a longer period of time.
Is the regeneration dependent on the part of a country or is this across board?
It is dependent on many factors, the part of country, the parent rock, the weather, the prevailing weather patterns and all that. So it's a conglomerate of many aspects. So the best thing is to do soil importation. You bring that soil, maybe red soil from a fertile area, you bring it and then you incorporate some manure and then you are ready for the next season.
Okay, so as a farmer, I need help with my land. I've been adversely affected. How do I reach you?
Well, in Amiran, we are located in Transami, Taj Mahal opposite. We have toll-free number 0800 720 720. You can call for free. So we are accessible. We are everywhere. We are in Facebook. We are in Twitter. We have good guys who are doing that job. So we are very much accessible. Apart from that, we have our agro dealers. They sell our products, Amiran products. So a farmer who is doing farming far away from Nairobi should not be left out. If you see agro dealer selling our products, know that we are part of the same business.
And are your specialists devolved, so to speak? Are you in the counties?
It is devolved, and we started it before devolution. We have every area as its own agronomist.
Okay.
So it is more than devolution because it is well distributed all over the country in small, you can call them sub-counties. We are well represented.
All right. Thank you for your time, Timothy Munywoki, Chief Agronomist at Amiran Kenya. He was actually speaking to us about food security with focus on the weather that has been, the rains that have led to the floods, and of course, many farmers that have lost their yields, and of course, getting advice on how to reclaim land and also how to move on from this weather.